So the landscape here is really huge. And it's important to make sure you're making the right decision early on. I'll draw this in a way you can't see, but it's hard to come up with sort of axes to talk about this landscape, right? To say like, oh, one is more complex or more diverse or has more options. I don't know what the right axes for sort of drawing a chart of this are. So I did this for now. I just made 4 categories. And I guess maybe I'll use an axis. So down at the most simple way to get stuff online is just make a blog on some website, you know? Just like go to WordPress.com and make a blog and embed anything you need to and don't write a website. Your chief goal in developing software is to not develop software. Only write code if you have to. If you don't have to write code, your life will be better and easier. But you know, you're creative people, so often you have to because you run into constraints of things, right? So WordPress.com can only do so much for you. That said, WordPress is a great way to get a website up very quickly. And like I said, you can embed stuff or link to stuff. So don't forget that that's the bottom of the axis. That's the simplest way to get something online, right? On public things. The next step is if you need to customize stuff, you can actually use those same platforms and hack them up, right? So you can install your own WordPress and start hacking on it, right? And like take some code out, write a module, things like that. Even still, this is way easier than starting from scratch for certain types of things, if you just need to get content up, right? So this is still in a sort of content land, not application land. And they call these things content management systems, CMS, content management systems. So the other big one in this domain is Drupal. You already heard me besmirch Drupal's name because I wrote code in it for 1.5 years and I hate it now. It is much more diverse and flexible than WordPress is as a CMS if you want to hack a CMS up. But it's similarly a pain in the rear to work in, right? So as soon as you'll hear me say this about all of these, as soon as you adopt one of these tools to work within, it comes with a set of constraints, affordances, and conventions, like I talked about earlier. And you have to learn those if you're going to work well in it. So if you want to work in Rails, you have to learn how to think Rails. If you want to work in Drupal, you've got to learn how to think Drupal. What does that mean? It means understanding the design conventions that they've come up with, right? And understanding what a Drupal-y solution to something is, or a Rails-y solution to something is. Most of these have guides about what that means, right? In Python, you call it Pythonic. Is some code Pythonic or not? And it's not a hard and fast thing, but it's sort of like, hey, this language or this architecture was developed with a philosophy and an approach. And when you look at it as how someone has solved a problem in that tool or that language, if you know it well, you can say, oh, that's a Pythonic solution. Or no, that's not really, that's a Java solution, but you happen to write it in Python. Because a language isn't just the syntax. It's also a set of beliefs about the right way to solve problems, a programming language. The same thing with all of these frameworks. It's not just a set of libraries. It's also a belief about the right way to use those libraries to solve a problem, okay? So when you decide which tool to use, spend some time learning what the right way to solve a problem is. You'll see this on Stack Overflow when you go and search for answers. You'll see things that say, oh, yeah, that could work, but that's not really a Pythonic way to do it, or that's not really how you do it in Rails. This is how you do it in Rails. And it's just kind of the way you're supposed to do it. Okay? The reason you do that is if you solve it the right way, it makes lots of other things easier. If you solve it the wrong way, or the way that isn't sort of the Railsy way to do it, or the Pythonic way to do it, then as soon as you want to change that code or integrate it with something else, it becomes harder. They're not suggesting these philosophies because they like them, or I mean just because they like them. They're suggesting because if they say if you use them, then they will get, like, you will get more power from each of these decisions you make. Yes? CGI I won't really even talk about because you shouldn't ever do that, really. There's no good reason to. So the other high-level thing to mention is micro frameworks and macro frameworks. So the next one up is if you're building an application that actually does stuff on the web, you know, that's interactive, you'll want to use one of these, right? That if you like hit a URL, it talks to an API, or it wants to be able to email someone when something happens, if it needs to talk to a database. As soon as you're writing an actual web application, you move into the land of micro and macro frameworks. So micro frameworks, the point is that they sort of let you make a make it run code when you hit a URL very quickly. So it collapses these 4 things into super simple libraries to do stuff right away. The macro frameworks are big architectures that let you use those to do tons of stuff. I'm going to get into those with examples. I'll take a break now because it's noon.